Good evening. A quorum being present, this meeting of the Annapolis Historic Preservation Commission shall come to order. This commission operates pursuant to the Land Use Article of the Annotated Code of the State of Maryland. Local authority for the commission is derived from the Municipal Code of the City of Annapolis, Chapter 21, Section 56. The purpose of the HPC is to preserve and promote the preservation and appreciation of historic sites, structures, and districts. Requirements for serving on the commission are detailed in Chapter 21, Section 8.06. The HPC operates pursuant to the State of Maryland 1977 Open Meetings Act, and therefore no pending application shall be discussed between or amongst commissioners outside of the public hearing to determine the disposition of the application. So we'll have roll call. Bill Williams. Here. Kim Finch. Here. Brendan Greeley. Here. Kim Golder. Here. Leslie Xavier. Here. I'm Kevin Smith, the vice chair. And Will Scott is not with us tonight. And we also have John Tower, our Chief of Historic Preservation, and Kim Consoli, our recorder. So moving on to the next step, John, announcements.
One announcement, and that is that I met with Ruby Singleton Blakeney, and she would like to put the equivalent of stars honoring famous people in the sidewalk at and around Church Circle, so the top of Main Street. The first person is, I hope everyone knows this name, Toni Braxton. So I think that it's appropriate that that come before HPC and also Heritage Commission. And I met with her just yesterday to discuss it. We had a phone conversation. It's an interesting concept. So bronze is the probable material. The size is probably, as she put it, manhole cover maybe 2 feet across. Something to consider. Hasn't really been done before. So once again, we will be in new territory.
Thanks, John.
Second announcement. I think that I'm probably going to have to include the Office of Law on finding out from BG&E how long they intend to keep their transformers above ground. So the last one that was installed right by Jimmy John's had no contact with Public Works and no contact with code enforcement. It just appeared. So that was a little disconcerting. Now, I have a theory, and the theory is that as the transformers age underground, they are difficult to replace because, as with many other things that are related to energy, the size of some components has expanded due to energy efficiency requirements. So we will see, but I have no explanations now. I want to get rid of those things. There's certainly an element of how dare you. It's Main Street, and there are two. And I'm wondering where the next one's going to pop up. Our important viewscape, their equipment. I think we can do better. Those are the important announcements.
Thanks, John. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Do you have any new violations or active violations to report on?
Well, I consider both of those BG installations to be violations, but other than that, still working on some of the older ones.
All right, thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is the consent docket. This is a procedure designed to expedite routine items before the commission. In order to be considered for the consent docket, the application must have received the recommendation of approval or approval with minor modifications from all of the commission's technical advisors, as well as the commissioners who are polled directly prior to this meeting. However, no application may be approved without the opportunity for public comment. The following application is possibly eligible for consideration on the consent docket, and that's 9 Shipwright Street. So does any member of the public wish to speak against the application for 9 Shipwright Street? All right, I'll take, yeah. We'll do that when we'll have, after the consent docket, because we're not having, if we had somebody to speak, we would do that step. But based on that, we'll take a motion to put the 9 Shipwright Street on the consent docket. So.
I move that 9 Shipwright Street I told you I wasn't going to forget, didn't I? I move that 9 Shipwright Street be added to the docket.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, so are there representatives from 9 Shipwright Street here today? Great. So what this means is your application is going to be voted to be approved because there was no negative comment on the application, and the commissioners and the staff report deemed it acceptable. There were some conditions. Well, did the staff report have conditions? Just double check.
I did not condition anything. I had one question, and that was regarding HVAC unit placement, and that was just explained to me. And of course, we looked at this before in a different design that was much larger, and I think that this fits the neighborhood very well.
Great. So with that, I'll take a motion to vote. Yeah, Elizabeth.
No, I was just wondering, I didn't hear what John's question was, and I didn't know if perhaps, even though they were told, okay. I wasn't certain what John's question was.
I was just mentioning that the HVAC units, the outdoor units, were their proposed location was just explained to me, and it's certainly acceptable. Although I don't know if I would want my convenient trash can location replaced by my HVAC units. So just saying.
Point of personal preference. Okay.
All right. So I'll take a motion to approve 9 Shipwright Street.
I move that we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. So 9 Shipwright Street was approved unanimous with one recusal. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Great. Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for creating an application and working with the city so well. Good luck on your project. All right, so we'll move on to other business, a pre-application for 198 King George Street. Are there people here to present for that one? Great. If you want to come forward to the for the table, and I'll swear you in. Yeah, so the welcome to the meeting. Just as a note, the microphones, there's a button on there that has to light up green if you want to be heard. But but I'm just going to swear you in. It's the tradition of the commission to administer the oath required in order to testify in mass. This includes all applicants, staff, consultants, professionals, and any member of the general public seeking to enter into the record their comments regarding any of the applications, which will be heard at this hearing. If you intend to testify, please rise and raise your right hand. Do you affirm, under the penalties of perjury, that the testimonies given and the statements you shall make are true to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief? Please respond by stating I do.
I do.
I do.
Great. All right, so having these, when I joined the commission, all the meetings were virtual. So this is my first pre-application in person. So if you have materials, we've in the past have come down to the table so we can look at your materials. And I think we should go ahead and do that now.
That'd probably be a good idea since I assumed that was going to happen. It's been a long time since I've actually been in person here either. It was Zoom before. So, but if everybody has computers, and John said if you do, because the application already went in that way, I only brought 2 copies thinking I wasn't sure how it was going to present. So,
Yeah, that's fine. I have, many of us have that, so.
I can pull it up too, but I'll just walk in. I can deal with
yeah,
it.
I pray they'll bring chairs around, and then we'll be kind of in the middle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can stand up too.
And I think, okay, usually everybody would sit, okay.
No, that's okay. I sit all day.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
You don't want to let that.
that's so funny, everybody's gotten so used to
Come
Zoom.
on, we're inviting you down.
Yeah, it's like, I know, it's a long time and all new faces. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, you have to also comment. So whoever wants to, so these are the 2, I don't know if anyone's gotten a chance to look at the thing. So we had a survey done after we were out on this property. So is everybody familiar with 198 King George?
Yes.
All right, so in the package, what I did was both show existing floor plans and where the work is, which is really the front porch/stoop and a side porch. One of the interesting things, and what the discussion will be tonight, which shows both the new proposed porch on the front, but we have some old drawings, and the reason that's important, these were done by Michael Dowling, an architect everybody's familiar with, back in 1987. And all I can ascertain from the drawings is there was a porch, and there's an old photograph on the reference sheet that showed a porch which had pillow block columns on it and an old roof. And that's consistent with what he had shown in his elevation at the time. So he had done as-built, and then the renovation that now exists was built.
So we're all still streaming, just so you guys know, but I still need to be hearing everybody. So we might need everything pre-application in the future.
So that means she wants to
chime in,
stay up
or-
there.
So since I had those drawings as reference, I knew that there was a porch there, and the owner had wanted to put some sort of covering over the doorway, which was, the porch was removed back in '87, apparently, because there's no porch now, and that would have been that application. And so I started from Michael's then new renovation, which is what we have now, which is wooden steps on the front and wooden steps on the side. And the owner wants to put in masonry, if at all possible, for the steps because it's more permanent. And in order to do that, I had a survey looked at because the steps seem to be A, not compliant with the code because they're very shallow, and B, they seem to stick out a little further, maybe a few inches past what appeared to be a property line on the front. So I kind of had the survey done, and sure enough, there's a few inches that they're actually past. So in the course of rebuilding, I dropped the, right now it's level, so you can see that on the existing elevations.
And
That the existing porch, get them all my sheets.
Sheet 82.
Yes,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
right now the step goes up to the door. And in order to eliminate one tread, I dropped that, which is kind of common anyway. I mean, it was usually dropped below a doorstep. I'm not quite sure why it was even in the first place. So now we've pulled what I'm proposing, which is a brick structure that's vented underneath. There's some mechanical equipment that he's hoping to be able to keep under there to vent. So that's one of the issues. And the other was we put a pent roof over top, so something to cover the door. It faces west, which is really a problem. There's no coverage at all on that side, and originally there was a roof, or at least at some point there was a roof. That doesn't mean there was original 110 years ago. But sometime I would assume it was in the 20s or early 30s is when that porch was put on. Anyways, so the idea is to put a brick stoop with stone caps for the steps and a wooden pent roof structure over the doorway that sticks out roughly 3 feet off the building, over top of the door. And if at all possible, we're doing a metal railing, as simple as possible, for the railing itself. And we would then use that at the side entry also. You know, obviously the side entry is not as important as the front entry, but we wanted everything consistent in the design. And the railings, and I've included a bunch of photographs of neighboring railings and some stone. That should be underneath. Those are all kind of reference photos. So the existing house, you can see this is its front door. The drawing on the left in that was Michael's original design for the front of the house. And it was more or less built very similar to that from everything I can gather. So some of the images that I used over there were trying to show you simple metal rails, a pent roof that's across the street, which is down at the bottom on the right, and some stone tops on steps, which would be the last sheet of photographs. I found a few of them. They're not the most common thing to show, like a bluestone top.
Is it cast stone?
What's that?
This is cast stone?
That is, yes, that's not exactly what we want it to be. I mean, we could do it that way. I just thought that was a little bombastic for what I'd want it to be, a little narrower. So what we have, that would be a limestone one, but I didn't do that. That's a little bit more not right. This is a stone cap, and there's one on Murray that I was thinking about. Yeah, there's one on Murray. It's more like what I was hoping is, where is it? Now I'm upside down. Yes, there's that one on Murray, and then there was one,
This is South.
yeah, on South.
Yes.
So, and I sort of wanted to distinguish it because it is a modern thing. It's kind of it's not supposed to be historic, not really, but it has to fit in. But at the same time, I don't want it to be a big brick blob with brick tops on it because the mortar and the maintenance and whatever. And on the west side, it does tend to get a little bit worn pretty easily. So want to make sure the top is something that's going to last a little while. The one that's there now, the wooden one, is, you know, in 22 years, 24 years, has really gotten kind of beaten up. Just nature of wood and all that exposure without any kind of roof covering. The other thing that the owner would like to do, if at all possible, is replace the door. And I cannot tell from Michael's drawing what originally was there. Right now, in the photograph, you can see it's a Victorian-ish, 1890s glass on the top half. And it doesn't show up in his drawing at all. And so I don't know where the door came from. I don't know if it was something that somebody restored and put in there, because there's also a Victorian fence that suddenly appeared out of nowhere because that wasn't there when there was a porch there. So I don't know whether that was a thing that an owner wanted just for a look. I can't find any photographic evidence that would have been on the house. So the owner, again, because of the weathering, and that one's not in great shape, would like to be able to put in, a paneled door of some sort. And I wanted to make sure that if anybody had any heartache over that door, or whether we needed a little bit more evidence about it, which I don't know where we're gonna come up with it. That was the only photograph we could come up with, and you can't tell what the door would have been at the time. In the big renovation, the whole front room and all of that was redone, and my assumption is they put on a door that they thought was old-timey, and somehow, I don't know if it was approved by the HPC in '87 to do that, or whether it just was something that occurred over time. We're not sure, because this owner's been in there 3 years, which would have been probably 3 owners past that renovation, so we're not quite sure where that door came from.
The stairs are the model for them is 16 South Street. That's what you're looking at.
I mean, it's not really a model. The reason that I used the stone top, that's just to show that they do exist in the historic district.
Okay.
There's no real model for this one because there are bricks with the really large stone steps, but that just didn't, that seemed overstated for a house that's relatively modest.
So this is 11 College Avenue that was the example that felt overstated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're nice. It's not, at one point we.
Terry, could I speak?
Yeah.
I consider the stairs at 11 College Avenue to be a black mark. I'm telling you it was a regret on the part of the former chief of preservation when they were seen. So I don't want anyone to think that that is a precedent that is favored. I also want to say that South Street is new construction, not connected to an older building.
The one on South Street's not. There was one that is new, and there's another one on South that's not.
Okay, you can correct
And then
me.
the one on the Murray, and I wasn't quite sure on Murray. I couldn't figure out whether that actually was in the. I think it's in the historic district because I had done.
No,
one
it's
that was.
not.
Okay.
No. It's not.
But in either case, the idea is
And
that I did-
neither is the one on Prince George Street, historic. 181. Just
what do
letting you
mean,
know.
the stoop is not.
None of the buildings.
No. Oh, none of the buildings.
Yeah, that building is
Yes, correct.
the result of a fire.
All I'm trying to do is say they exist in the historic district.
Right.
And they got approved at some point, whether it was a new building or a renovation, but, and in this case, I'm trying not to be necessarily historic
So it already
as
was
much
inside,
as
right?
something that somebody could say, oh, that wasn't possible.
Well, I certainly agree because the greatest issue here would be creating a false sense of history.
Correct. Correct. That's what I'm trying not to do.
And that's why you also go with the metal railing instead of a wooden railing.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Besides the weather in this case, but.
One thing on that, it looks like it's just one large paint.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So you're talking.
Yeah,
about-
and it's possible in the 1890, that was an expensive, a large piece of glass in 1890 was expensive, and so that was considered at the time pretty high, but I think that was a found door.
Yeah.
So-
Should I contact Michael Dowling to confirm?
Well, it doesn't show, I don't think it's part of his application.
Okay.
To be honest with you, because it's not showing up in any of his drawings. Now, and whether he remembered from 25 years ago, whether that was the door that they ended up with somehow. Because he's showing more of a colonial door. And in fact, he had a couple different versions of the house, because there was apparently times that went over, and you can kind of see it in this image here, that it was a colonial. And I assume a panel door is, and we can pick a couple. I didn't bother until I wanted to get feedback on whether we can even replace it, but I assume it's going to be a panel door, probably without glass in it, because it's got glass in the surround, so there's no reason to put glass in the door itself.
So that means they didn't buy.
So Terry, if I could request a site visit to look at the door
Absolutely.
But there is a
and
light, looks like, on
determine
the side.
authenticity, to that location.
Yeah.
Could be,
Yeah.
but that doesn't look like it's part of it.
It certainly looks like it fits more or less so I can see how somebody would have thought, oh, why not? But
Well,
You
that's the
said-
challenge, right? Is the
Was there an application, do we know, for this work that was
For
done?
87.
So the problem is that the applications were archived, and getting that application is very, very difficult and very, very expensive. It costs practically nothing to archive it, to retrieve it. Here, half a king's ransom. Anyway.
Kim, did you have some?
No, I was just saying 87 was 35 years ago.
That
so
needs to
that's
be
a long
remedied.
time
That
to
seems like
remember.
a problem.
One.
If we
I
should
mean, I
know what we
remember
previously
some,
approved.
you know, because I got here in the 90s and I was on the HPC from, 97 to 2002. So you remember a lot of things, but this one's
Yeah,
just,
it's kinda
he'll remember
obscure.
some of it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at the drawing, it looks like the 6-panel door too small at the top, 4 about the same size. It does appear that there are side lights around that could basically have become that.
So we don't know whether,
When
so
they're
that,
drawing
we don't know if that's an idea
Well,
for
that's
replacing it.
what's
Well-
written there. You can read it.
Yeah.
Based on the
It says
detail,
conjecture, right?
it looks like an
But
idea.
Yeah, he
That's
wanted
because you
to,
can stretch it. We can't over here.
Yeah, but like you can't read everything he
Yeah.
wrote, but it does like conjectures, and this is a conjecture.
So it's not anything we can go on
After
based
the
on.
well, it was
After
his
the curtain is
idea, and so
removed,
we
will
don't
be
know, we
open
don't have the
and-
applications, we can't tell, we can tell the windows got replaced.
Yeah,
I can
This is-
tell
this is
some trim
conjecture.
got enhanced, but
based on.
I don't have his construction drawings
After
either, so I don't
curtain is
know.
removed, is returned, will be
Well, I sort of have
open
to agree with you,
and
Terry, that when I look at this door, that where the
Submitted
side
for
lights come
approval.
down
Submitted
is
for approval.
not in line
like
with the
another
glass at the
application.
door,
Sounds
which
like
would be
it.
the
Yeah.
usual, if you had that
So this
glass
is-
door.
You would assume there's some
No.
relationship between the pieces, but
Yeah.
then we don't know. So my assumption is that the side lights stayed and that this was a more complex version of something that Michael at the time thought would fit, and that either it got rejected or they decided not to do it. A lot of these I can't tell because there were a couple versions, whether that was the final one or that was a preliminary one that he talked of with him, but. So anyways, the only thing I could count on was the porch was removed and the roof was removed. And that some of the things seem to match up with what's there. The steps on the front more or less are there. A lot of the trim work. They did some interesting modifications that also made that look a little bit, I don't know, John, if you've looked at it, the trim on the building had some Victorian-ish sort of modifications, like they were trying to save the thing, but then did something, I couldn't quite fathom what went on, but whatever.
Well, full disclosure, I worked on the house, but I can't remember.
Now that explains everything.
Oh, I worked on a lot of them, but I can't remember the trim details.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice looking, so it's you know, but it's hard to know what the actual original is. You can sort of tell.
Yeah, so I think the side is obviously dependent on whatever happens on the front, but I think there's less concern about the side because of it's not it's the side, not the front door. We've only got one piece of evidence of what was there beforehand, and we're of course trying to not create like a false sense of history. So that's the challenge that we're looking at tonight, I believe, or at least that's how I would frame the challenge. So yeah, with that one picture, was that from 1960?
It's too bad we can't stretch that.
Probably even before that, but there is, you can kind of see in the neighboring, where's the closest? There's a neighbor, you can kind of see what the columns
Yeah, it's
would have
that
looked
right
like.
line,
Yeah.
right? They just painted it. I see.
Yeah, right next door. Where is it? Yeah, here. So you can see what these guys over 2 houses away, they had what this one would have had, except it had a full porch on it. And so that's the closest thing to what would have been there with the pillow block. Which it was surprising in '87 that they wouldn't have said something about taking it off, but at that time probably they said, well, it wasn't original to the building, which it wouldn't have been. It would have been something that was added in 30 years after or 40 years after it was built. And this, probably the commission, I would assume, said, well, that's not historic anyway, therefore. So they didn't have the idea that to keep history through its stages, it was more kind of ugly and they don't want it anyway, so
hold on.
I guess, but
That is conjectural,
that's definitely conjecture, but would you have?
counsel?
Yes. Yeah, Andy, how do you spell? Yeah. Have you guys actually, you guys probably today would retain something that was 40 or 50 years into the O thing, right?
Well,
That,
50 years is what.
no, I mean into the course of doing it. It's part of the history of the building, right? But apparently in
They gain
87.
significance by themselves if they're
It's-
there for a period of time.
Yeah, so that, I would find it hard to believe it would be allowed to be taken down, that porch that was taken down in 87. I would think that that would end up having to be retained, but
So, period of significance ends 1942.
and it was probably before then, because pillow block wasn't really used after.
The
30s.
20s, yeah.
Yeah, it would have
right.
been 20s, and then
Right.
would have been considered significant. That's what I've thought. But,
So what other options did you consider?
that was about it, because we talked about, and I didn't want to offer brick, because I think that's horrible to do the whole thing, and it's too colonial. And I don't want to offer wood, because I don't think it's the right solution for the, for that particular building on the west side. If it was covered and it was a porch, it might be a little differently, but they're not, part of the program isn't to build a porch. Even though right next door I finished 200 and it had a porch, so it made sense. Wood on a porch is fairly normal, but because it's so exposed, it's got to be something that's going to last a while, and there's only a few materials that I think would do that. Stone being the best in terms of a top, only because there's fewer mortar joints, and not that it couldn't be brick. I just think there's a brick sidewalk, brick, and more brick. I'm like, no, that's not a great solution.
And then the usage, with the door becoming a faux door, right? This would not be.
Right now, it is a faux door. It literally is not operating. Not that it couldn't if it needed to on a next renovation, but right now the interior is up against it, so it doesn't work as a door. So it's a door that's sort of on the face, but doesn't really.
So that's the current condition.
That's the
You
current
continue
condition. Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
If there are, it looks like there are other houses on the street that have comparable porches, 218 King George Street, and they're supported by posts. So it's not even skepticism or disagreement, just curiosity. Why hang it on the arch instead of on a post?
You could put a post. I mean, I just liked it being off the building, and the post would get in the kind of way we're not putting a really large space. So, and I also didn't want to get too much in the way of the architecture. So the only thing that I would generate would have been a broader, a little bit like the column that had been there, but then it's kind of fat for the space that you have, and it takes up a little too much.
Okay.
A little too, again, bombastic or a little bit so. And then conjecturally, pent roof, I mean, I put a curved piece in there because it looked good coming off the roof, but that's again a call of straight version might be a little simpler. There's no, I just like the idea of it kind of lifting off the building.
Okay.
And it's pretty obvious that that's not, an 1890s thing.
This 1960 roof also comes out a lot farther. So.
And on the roof of the covering, it does say asphalt shingles.
That's what we were thinking. And it could be metal very easily if that was something, but by shingles, it obviously then is a new thing also, or a newer thing. And metal, as much as it is, could go anyway. It could be new, it could be old.
I'm pretty sure asphalt shingles are specifically called out in the guidelines. So, I'll just grab mine.
Roofs,
Sure.
roofing materials.
Yeah.
Kevin, you're looking for asphalt?
Yeah.
Asphalt is allowable, it's approvable, and I think the guidelines makes reference to it making its first appearance in the historic district about 1910. So it's actually been around for quite some time.
What's the roof on the top of the building?
It's asphalt right now.
It's
So,
asphalt.
Yeah, it probably is. So one time I'll bet it was Well, it was probably metal, I would assume, but I don't know. Back long ago.
Oh, well, I will check on that, but if it's asphalt now, putting asphalt on top of the proposed porch roof actually makes it easier to approve because it takes some of the possible confusion about whether it's an original feature out,
Right.
at least that element.
What page was the shingles on?
45. Preserving and protecting historic roof systems.
Match the existing building.
I like the little space below the steps right there. Very tasteful.
Oh, good. It's, you know, the owner's kind of in a contractor himself or has a big company and was concerned about ventilation, so it's like, oh, sure, let's do a little something,
Yeah, well, I mean, one follows one.
a little bit.
So the concern with metal roofing is that it would make it look historic in a way that it is not.
It might, yeah.
Sorry, I'm new here, I just asked questions.
That's good. That's a great question, because I wasn't sure. Every commission's a little different in terms of that
Okay.
It says
concern.
roofing material
So-
for.
Not that it affects what they're doing, it's just,
Should
that-
match what's.
was probably added
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, and there's
after the
shingles on the
original
building, so.
construction.
Right, so I mean,
Mixing wood and asphalt shingle.
so it does, so
This just reminds me of something that was done in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah. So, okay, so a couple things, right? We talked about roofing materials, right? And John clarified that. So, I think are we comfortable, is anybody comfortable with that idea of an asphalt shingle on a stoop? What do we call it, a portico or a?
Yeah, I just call it pent roof only because when it hangs off without columns, it's.
Okay.
Not if that's what's already there. And also, again, there are other porches on that stretch of street that have asphalt on the roofs, on the porch roof. That's, again, I'm looking at 218 King George.
And then it does talk about, deteriorated porches and stoops should be repaired in kind, so we're looking at D23 for the existing porches and stoops. That the stoops of 18th and early 19th century houses were usually constructed of wood with wood steps, while freestanding stairs were more often stone. But then it talks about physical evidence, right? We do have a picture of what was there at one point, right, before it was demolished, and Bill's looking at that picture and thinking that there's evidence that there's masonry there on that porch.
If you zoom in on it,
Yeah,
Real tight.
I think the porch itself was masonry.
it looks like this entire row
Yes, it
was all
had that
masonry.
Old masonry,
Where they stacked it offset, you had the holes in between.
that's what it looks like to me.
That's where I'm thinking it's probably maybe a 50s construction or 40s.
At least that part, you know, the way that he's drawing it, since pillar block wasn't usually used in the 50s, either that was a infill, this piece here, and then they kind of changed it over time. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it looked to me like there was some sort of concrete. They could have actually done the porch in concrete. I don't really know. That would have been harder to tear off the building. So if that was concrete, this piece, it doesn't show up in his
I
foundation.
mean, that piece there looks like a rail to me.
Yeah,
I'm also looking at these, which if you compare the post sizes
Yeah.
here and look at those,
yep.
I'm thinking that's CMU.
So what, again, this is what Michael showed for his foundation. I don't,
Well,
you
this may
can see
have,
these.
and this may have totally been gone before he did that.
No, this
It was
has
there?
the
That's,
roof on it.
that's from him?
That's,
Okay.
it's gotta be, because that's that. That's what he represented here.
And I guess that
And
is
this, it's hard
this.
to tell, yeah, and here is another one. And then this, he doesn't really define. Either they filled it in at
Okay.
some point because this was earlier than this.
Well,
I don't know.
assume those are 6 inches. How wide is that?
Yeah, it looks like it's a 12 or a 14 inch
Yeah.
wide thing.
I'm still
You know,
thinking-
the pillar block
I'm still
wasn't
thinking
out.
block, yeah.
Yeah, yep.
And the evidence that we have is that this picture is from at latest 1960.
do you remember, you pulled it from you found it?
I found
There is a
it.
larger, it's a city picture, and I just focused on
Yes, that's
one.
basically looking at the back of the Pickett House when it was whatever hotel or whatever it was, and I could just spy that in the corner, so I zoomed in and it worked. But that was the only picture I could find. I want to say it was 57, 59, 60, yes.
This is 60 here.
That's what, yeah, that's, anyway, so that's,
But I could find nothing else.
yeah, if that's all the evidence we have, right? That's,
Yeah.
what we're working with.
This is Michael's back
This is-
information.
This is his record, you know, of him doing an as-built at the time. So that's why I said, well, at least there was a roof there, so we'll do a new roof and more or less keep the same pitch, just do it slightly differently.
Yeah, so that's, again, that's gonna be one of the concerns, right? It's just to distinguish the modern from the historic, right? If we're creating something new, we don't want it to be confusing as to when it was created.
Right.
So that's definitely a goal we have. Are there thoughts on that from my commissioners?
I think not using the posts makes that distinction. We have many other, we have roofs with, porches with posts on them. And so not doing that seems like it's adhering to those guidelines.
It's not common for a building that dates to the 1880s to have this type of porch, so it is anachronistic. I have an idea,
No.
but it's not. To just make sure that there is no confusion. You could have the date the house was built, and then also the date that this porch roof was installed. It'd be very subtle, and then there would
kind of
just
a
be
cool idea.
no confusion. Like,
I think
there
the
it
house-
is.
I think the Smiths, I'm their interior designer, and I'm just helping on this project and representing them here. I think they did just get it plaqued
plaques.
They got plaques.
for the historic,
when,
for
I'm
the
sorry?
house.
Was that the historic Annapolis one?
Yeah,
So that just has
And
the,
that,
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with that. I think what John's suggesting is just.
so if there's some other way to add something,
Yeah.
then why not?
It's done on you see it all the time.
That'd be kind of cool.
right,
You know,
on the physical materials, so that there's something
Yeah.
documenting
Right.
when it was installed.
Maybe even with my name on it.
Well,
Your signature, Terry, your signature.
We're gonna pour concrete in the
Yes.
sidewalk.
Yeah.
You can put your hand in it.
You don't want to be a
Yes, yes. We'll start
Who
doing
would
that.
have ever done that? Look.
then John goes, you know, that one right there, that's what he did.
I know nothing.
Well-
And then we've discussed that the front of the house wouldn't have had a porch to begin with, most likely.
It seems like probably not, and it just had steps someplace going
Okay.
to the door.
The rails, I think people were comfortable with the
I like
metal
that.
railing,
They're very elegant, yes.
And again, not trying to look like something they're not.
right?
Particularly ones that were.
They don't detract from the house itself.
So John, do you want to just give us your full comments on this? We've just been we've let you sit apart. And
I'm sorry?
would you like to come over and give your full comments, which is usually often what we ask the staff member to do at the end
So-
of the pre-app?
It is, it's probably a design that could be differentiated from being original, so that's good. And as mentioned, it doesn't have posts, and that's probably also helpful. It seems diminutive. You're not trying to recreate something that was there. And if there were some note to help differentiate it, that could be even more helpful. In terms of bluestone on brick, I have to say, it is a trend, and it does appear in certain places. However, I would think, if there were a possibility, consider something that not everyone else is doing.
But stone is, the idea of stone, it doesn't have to be bluestone, it's just as a common from a sustainability standpoint, because it's here.
Right. Right. Well, it's almost even a local stone.
Yeah, but I didn't want, well, I mean, it's not that we can't do flagstone, it's just the edging, when you have a, the flagstone thing doesn't really work either. It's very patio-ish as opposed to.
Well, I have to say, it looks very contemporary.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that, I don't know how harmonious it is with the house. I've seen it in other places.
Yeah.
For instance, on Conduit Street, and it does not really fit with those early 20th century houses.
Yeah.
But something to consider, maybe more than one
I mean, you could
possibility.
also do, if you really want to be modern, you could do a concrete. I just think that's too brutal.
We like brutalism here. We're trying to save brutalism.
Yeah. You're trying to save, I've noticed.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
There's-
11 College Avenue has some lovely, massive granite caps.
Well,
Obviously, John.
So,
Sorry.
we can change the stone type, right, in terms of one that's, because there's gonna be a limestone is gonna be, or something that's a little, or a sandstone,
Do
would
the guy-
all be something that's not as common, and obviously be something that's more related to these big blocky ones, which were only on certain, buildings when they got massively, you can see them sticking out, the cantilevered pieces of stone that are off Ram's Head and all those buildings, that's where that stone, we can match the type of stone, but I didn't want it to be those massive ones, because that's really the highest end building. To me, that was a little too high.
So limestone is more common with buildings like Rideout. Rideout has limestone. And I think that Ram's Head is granite. I think that one's granite. But you'll know tomorrow morning when you walk your dog.
Yeah, I hadn't, because they're spanning, because it's literally cantilevering out.
It is.
Still away from the building. I had just assumed it wasn't granite, that it was more local, but I'll look at it.
but, you have these wonderful elements that are elegant and in scale. And so, it would make sense that steps, whatever you choose, would be, that same sort of elegance that you protect with the metal rails.
Yep.
The pin roof, that all says, very delicate.
So one of the issues that comes up when you do stone is we don't want a heavy mortar joint. So the tighter the joint, the more elegant and the more refined. But the thickness of it is another giveaway that it's incorrect. And so in these, I hadn't dimensioned it, but I was showing about a 2-inch thick, which is the common one in the bluestone. But it is also common in granite and in other outdoor materials if we chose to look around for either a sandstone or a limestone or something that's not quite as bluestony and looking.
Why, I don't understand, why are we hesitant about the bluestone?
I think John's.
It's just very contemporary.
And so the concern is it might look contemporary.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it just doesn't fit with the consistency of the rest of the house.
It's a great material, but it really wasn't used in Annapolis until very recently.
But I guess so just to play devil's advocate, what's good about that is the sense that sustainability, and it's pretty obvious that it would have only been done in the last couple of years. It's another giveaway.
Differentiation. But we do want whatever you're designing to be harmonious.
Yeah. So it could be that it's a specific, and because there's a couple different, some are very blue, some are very green, some are gray, more appropriate color-wise, and they're also local. Like we can just make sure that it's a certain vein of the bluestone with a tight mortar joint. That would kind of cover both bases.
What are other stairs made out of that are on similarly plaqued buildings?
They're either brick for the most part,
Okay.
and you get all the mortar joints and all that other stuff. And I was stay away from that. Only, it's not really that it's ugly, it just doesn't seem to fit the building too
Yeah.
well. And it's too bulky. And then the mortar joints are ridiculous, but, it's not common to see a brick with the stone unless it's the big, that one on
The big
College.
caps,
Or,
yeah.
or, they're really a more, a bigger brick building. I mean, they're a heavier building, so I was like, okay, how am I gonna reverse that and make it a lighter thing for a lighter building? And that's where the thinner pieces came from.
I just consider the big bulk as more of a masculine look.
It is.
And then, to have these thin, delicate features that is given us, and it really sets it off when you put those on this, block almost, then you put these very light, delicate features,
So we'll kind of, I think, in the actual then permit, we'll kind of try to identify the stone species that we're using and the dimensions on it. And if it turns out that we do find that there's a blue stone out there that is not blue or green, but actually is a good light gray that seems to look good, we'll actually call it out and say this is what's,
Okay.
the intention behind the stone. Yeah.
All right, any other concerns?
We have the side porch, of course,
Yeah.
and there's also the vents on that front porch.
The vents under the steps.
We have one's an access, and the other is vents. You have vents on, as you're facing the right-hand side, and there is a access panel.
Yeah, just to be able to take it out, but also to vent.
Is there a way to make that a little more decorative?
Yeah, that was a question
I
of
mean-
how, before we start to, again, the faux, because there
I
are
understand.
panels that start to get the Victorian-ish pattern, and probably better, safer than sorry, to make it as simple as possible,
Yes.
but that's,
It's just that when I look at that, it looks like, oh, we have dogs living under there. We need to get the chain link and put it in there and keep them out there,
so,
rather than a piece designed to
Yeah.
be.
well, we can look at just,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's a bunch of, we can look at the,
It's almost like a herringbone.
there's a bunch of McNichols, I don't know if you guys
Yes.
know, there's a Baltimore
It's sort of
company
like
that
crossed
whenever I'm going into
TNT.
specialty kind of
That, I forget
panel
what that's
metal.
called, but you can get that in a punched sheet.
Yes, there's a bunch of different,
And
do you know
which is all-
McNichols?
Yes, I know.
Yeah, they have a wide variety, and we can probably pick something that seems to, if there is again, it would cross over into the
Yeah.
historic thing pretty easily into,
Yeah, but not to pick on that drawing, but when I saw that, the first thing I thought is chain link.
don't wanna look like chain link.
And then on the vent side, is that on the?
Then the other side is two different holes, which you'll never see both sides at the same time.
Right.
Ventilation holes with wire mesh grill.
Yeah, but see, that one looks like it has more detail. In fact, when I first saw that one, I thought maybe you were leaving the head joints out of the brick and just let that be the vetting.
Yeah, well, the basic thing was to leave the brick out and then put the wire in behind. That was so that it showed off the brick patterning. That's what I had wanted for all of it until we realized he wants access. So,
Yeah.
on one side.
What's he putting under there, do you know?
There's a small HVAC unit that I guess operates.
I think it goes to a large wine cellar that they don't use.
That requires site inspection.
I'll take you, yeah.
Proposing a site visit?
Okay. Yes. I think, but it's not, they don't use the wine room.
Oh, my God.
That's a shame.
I know.
We can empty it for him if he wants,
Yes.
so he can find a use for it.
That's right, that's right.
My concern was, again, the
access panel.
the access panel, the size of it, it seems like, who's going to get in there to actually do any maintenance?
Well, the unit,
very
it's
small.
a question of unit itself and a person. So
Yeah.
I was just assuming that it had to be a relatively good size. I mean, I can fit through a, relatively small thing, but I don't know if everybody else can.
You looked at me when you said that.
John took a big breath too.
Oh, no. I get down in crawl spaces and so on. I just want to mention, I looked up the 1921 Sanborn map, and it had a one-story platform platform. That was how it was described. But then in 1905, what's that? That's 1905, 1906, there is no front porch.
Was the door up there?
The door? I bet there was a door, but you can't see it on the map.
Usually show steps on the sand.
1908, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will show front porch.
What about the 36 or 38?
I have 30 back in, here it is. I have 30 in the office with paste overs. So I might have one page that's 1930 with no paste overs, and then they would paste over up to 72. I think when they built the Hillman garage, that was one of the last paste overs. It's always fascinating.
I love that paste over thing.
So there it is with
Were there any concerns on the side?
Not
With
really,
no
it's just there, it
porch.
should be looked at.
Yeah,
Everyone
Look at all
get a chance to say
this.
something.
sure.
It's like
Yes. I was expecting the side to be
This
pretty consistent
here.
with what's on the front.
it's all gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the basic
And,
idea. It's
and
the
that
same
is where
brickwork.
that
That
is
was
something that
authentic
Carville
'cause
Hall
doesn't need to be. so-
replaced.
Yeah. And the gate as well, right? It's all,
That gate was part of the same, trying to be as simple as possible.
yeah.
And the gate's just the same as the railing and construction. Black, of course.
I'm assuming it's black, that's what the owners, because they're, it's big
Everyone's
wrought
black.
iron.
Wrought iron, it's gotta be black.
All right. Any other concerns? The kind of, obviously we mentioned several things, but just trying to like summarize to complete this, that we have some expectations that this plan could get to a feasible state, that that we're considering. Okay. That based on our review, that there are some concerns that we have with that we'd like to see in the application regarding the materials and the actual final selections that'll be made, but that the evidence that we have confirms that there's been a multiple different iterations of this front of this house, and so that we have some opportunity that we want to have, that we don't want to have a false sense of history in this, but there are opportunities to avoid that and maintain a consistency of the house and the district. So.
Do you feel like you have actionable feedback on the materials for the stairs?
It sounds like the conceptual idea of stone on top of brick is more or less acceptable. It's just the specifics about the stone and the specifics about how, if there's a hole on the one side for access, that it be articulated nicely or appropriately, but not look either historic nor, but something that's elegant, like we're talking about the steps being elegant in whatever way that's done. It seems like you all are saying that the pent roof itself with asphalt shingles appears to be part of a modern campaign, and therefore whether we do it with a plaque thing or a note about it being a modern addition, that makes sense to everybody, and that the railings, simple wrought iron railing, makes sense too. If that sounds...
Yeah, and then the just the detail on the side, on the venting and the access panels. But yeah, so we can have this without creating that false sense of history, but it's able to also the addition will be diminutive to the main house without detracting from the main house, from the history that we have been able to maintain. So I think so unless there's anything else, I think we
One quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The handrail at the end where it comes out, are you planning any type of lamb's tongue or scroll or
I
anything?
can't stand it's gonna be as simple as possible, whatever it is. I can't.
Thank you.
I keep trying myself, but I hate the lamb's tongue thing.
I'm for that.
He's getting very clear, he says, he kept saying simple.
Yes.
Well, I still think that simple is very, very valid. I like
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, good. We look forward to having an application that we can actually vote and approve and have a, just appreciate you coming for this conversation so we can have this.
I appreciate
dialogue
everybody,
now.
all these new
Yes.
faces. I mean, Will's the only other one that I did know, and he's not here tonight, so.
Right.
But everybody's relatively new.
Brendan, hi. Nice to
Brandon,
meet you.
yeah, and I know Kimberly, I've seen you before, but not within a,
In this capacity.
yeah.
One question. Does this stair need the handrail to extend by code?
Not in residential,
Extend.
yeah. not in
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
What do you mean extend?
There is a code that talks about the handrail having to extend so far out
Yeah.
beyond.
That's commercial,
Talking about ADA.
yep. It's only in residential.
I don't think that.
I like
I mean,
your,
only-
I like your reasoning.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you'll have to have a.
Otherwise, you'd end up with those little things
Yeah,
all
yeah.
over.
Yeah.
So that'll be,
Oh, you know that they did change that in the code, though. Remember how it used to have to be 1'10"? It had to be a tread plus a foot in the 88. Now it's back to 12.
Yeah, because
only.
people keep walking into it.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah. Hip hitters.
It created more handicaps.
Yeah, I was just saying, you might
It
have
did.
that, yeah.
The handicap is to make it
Thank you,
anything.
that was very.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
yeah. Just to clarify, I realize I skipped the part where I wanted to just be clear that what we discussed today is not an approval and cannot be construed as an approval, just to be clear. So, but thank you for coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Great seeing you all in person as opposed to Zoom.
And in its own way, better than the screen presentation.
It does, yeah.
Much more interactive conversation. Very nice.
Yes, you want to have on site, so that's a coordination between you and
Well, we should.
All right. So with that pre-application step, we'll move to the next step tonight for our administrative business. First item is on our agenda is the election of officers. So we do not have a chairperson right now. So do we have a nominee for the chair?
I'll second.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? All right, I'll take a vote to confirm me, Kevin Smith, as the chair. All in favor? Aye. So that was unanimous. Thank you. And thank you, John. So for a vice chair, I actually would like to nominate Bill Williams. So can I have a second for that?
Second?
Are there any other nominations? No. With that, Bill, do you accept the nomination?
I'll accept it if you put up.
I can agree to those terms. So with that, let's take a vote on having Bill Williams as our vice chair of the commission. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. That was unanimous as well. Thank you, Bill.
This might be the only applause you ever hear. Association with this, except when I leave.
So the last item on our agenda for tonight is the Historic District Design Manual update. This has been on our agenda for a while now, but it's we've been distracted by the city dock application and that we approved at our last meeting. So we did have some conversation about taking different sections and focusing on what we have. Are people comfortable with that method? If I send out kind of assignments out, I know a couple people took some volunteers, and if I just assign different sections, I know our predecessors had some ideas of sections we can discuss, but I think we can work on that project and have more to talk about on our administrative meeting later this month.
I'm fine with that. Can I just ask, only because I'm brand new, without causing a very long conversation or even a medium-length conversation, what are the challenges of the current design manual that we're trying to fix?
So,
Well, I could speak to that.
yeah, John will take this. Has a couple
they're-
ideas.
They're numerous, and really, let's say for something as simple as an antenna for wireless communication. Originally, we had antenna that were approved within the historic district that might have been a foot across in a disc on the side of a building. However, everyone relies on their wireless communications now. So these antennae have grown. Not only that, but there are attempts to capture more market, deliver more service for each provider. The problem is that we really don't have an easy to understand guideline that requires screening. So for instance, we need to put that in so that when Verizon comes to us, and they have, that we know how to respond to them and they know how to respond to us. And you know, if you look at 80 Compromise Street, we worked on that. I know it's cringy. We worked on it. We agreed to a film of invisibility. I forget what it was called exactly. It did not work. Not only that, but the film sort of reflects the sky, and then the structure that holds up the antenna is entirely visible because it has no film on it. So you have the contrast between the two. Again, you know, we tried, we have to do better. That's the sort of thing that we're going to be working on. Just try to get to a point where we have a standardization so it's not arbitrary and difficult.
That's a good example, John. Like things like solar panels, right? Is something that wouldn't have been considered the last time that the guidelines were thoroughly reviewed, right? Certainly the rooftop decks are a item that come before us consistently, and being able to provide a clear set of expectations for the residents and business owners, I think is valuable, right? By creating those expectations, they know what they're looking for, what we're looking for, and they can design things that comply the first time and remove some of that ambiguity for them.
It also makes enforcement easier. And there is enforcement. I mean, it happens all the time. It's unpleasant, but it's necessary. Especially when one business is looking for advantage over another. And this is especially true with restaurants. So the more that we can define our guidelines, the better.
Yeah, we recently did some work on the outdoor dining, like the furniture guidelines, and I think that was helpful with the change in the economic nature of the businesses that tend to congregate in our historic district at the time. And you obviously have experience looking at those communities, how they change over time. So we're just trying to change with the times as well, and work to keep the historic district a vibrant, desirable area to invest in and to live in and spend time in. So that was a good question to clarify. So there's a couple items, but I'll reach out to the group and move that forward. So any other? Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
I would just ask John, because I know when I did my tour with you, we talked about some of the things that we talked about some of the things that the times were forcing, such as heating units, outdoor heating units, and how we would have to adjust. So I know that you have a very good notes about each section. So however we can.
Well, I have some notes, but it's going to be a collective endeavor.
Sure. But I know there's some stuff that you've seen that, if you had some teeth behind you to enforce, it would be helpful, as you've seen things that technically are violations. However, our current document doesn't address those because no one was considering outdoor heaters at that time.
Right. Yes, and also, I'd like to get something in there that is definitive regarding things like transformers and defining
Propane tanks.
what temporary is. How temporary is this transformer here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good discussion. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Any other, Leslie?
John, when was the last time these guidelines were?
2011.
Okay.
And Kim was on the commission.
Yeah, I would just, something that we haven't talked about, that it's been is use of substitute materials. And I watched a presentation that National Association Preservation Commissions put together about the updated use of substitute materials that was just put out by the Secretary of Interior in late 2013. So there's new guidance and new Secretary of Interior direction on the use of substitute materials. So I think that that's one thing we should look at carefully as we move forward, because we've been pretty strict about that in the past because there wasn't as much range of options, and things that the variety of materials has really expanded at this point. So I'd really like to pull some of those materials or encourage you. I have the recording of this presentation about substitute materials if anybody's interested in looking at it.
I'd be very interested in it. Yeah. Do you have it on, is it digital or is it like on a CD or?
Is it like an online link for like a video?
Yeah, it's a link. I can forward it to
All of us, yeah.
it's a full link that is available through the National Association of Preservation Commissions. Yeah. And we're a member. They have ongoing video presentations, and we are an affiliate of the National Association of Preservation Commissions. And so we can when they announce a presentation, we can watch it for free.
That's great. Thank you for bringing that up to us, Kim. And one other thing I did want to ask while we were here is about the boards and commissions training later this month. Is everybody aware of it? Are people going to be able to attend that? I'm going to be there. John, you'll be there?
So I'm aware of it, and I already will be out of town, so
Okay.
I'm not, but I have sent word
Great.
that I would not be in attendance.
Okay.
That it's my understanding it's going to be recorded, so I'll watch it and just request that I be able to get the materials.
Great.
Any handouts, I do like paper.
And Leslie, do you think you'll be able to make it?
I'm hoping to attend.
Great.
I plan to be there if I
Great.
can remember the date.
Yeah, it's was it Saturday? Is it the 20th?
20th. Yeah. They can come too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was,
So it's on 420?
I might be late.
thanks, John. Okay. I just want to make sure you guys, everyone was aware of it, and, because that's a good opportunity, I think, for,
You will get lunch and there's a coffee, introductory coffee hours.
great.
Is there an agenda?
Yes, there is.
Has it been shared?
No, it's just being finalized.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to that. So, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.